Hey guys, what is going on? So we're currently looking at DXY and this is Monday market breakdown. So we're currently looking for long positions on DXY. So what we're currently looking at here on the large time frame structure is potentially we're seeing this clearer on the daily, that we're seeing this sort of expanding nature of this pattern. It's possible that we might see this 1, 2, 3 leading into this area, which makes it even better if we do get something like this, because we did kind of come from this mini double bottom over here with a nice little arc in nature, and it gives it that very nice sort of possibility. It wasn't the best sort of middle section for me, to be honest, but nevertheless we still have very corrective price action, which is good, and now we're just looking for continuation to the upside. I am looking for a clear 1, 2, 3 to take this along, so it is something more so in this sort of formation of a pattern. Obviously it could be a much larger than I expect. That is more so what I'm looking for, so as time goes on I'll just wait to see how that develops, but this is just basically there to outline what I am looking for in this area. We did have that little gap in the market as well, so you know, more than likely we will just do something over here, push back up, come back down one more time, and then boom. And that's basically the sort of structure I'm looking for to really get involved in. So give it time, let it develop, but the more sort of corrective it comes back down, just have to wait. It becomes more neutral though if we do drop off down here, then I'm not really considering the long. I'll just have to accept that we could probably just start correcting all the way back down to this low, but we'll have to wait and see for that. So more than likely I would stay on the 4 hour for now and just let the structure do what it has to do until we're ready to go. And this could correct throughout to Wednesday possibly, and we might see Wednesday afternoon New York session, the trade might be available for the long, or we might be surprised. So that's something I would definitely stay sharp for. JP225, we're still in that sort of break of this trending area that I'm looking at for this larger correction to potentially come to the downside. I am looking for the sort of 1, 2, 3, so more than likely now that we have sort of some sections in here, perhaps maybe something like this would be interesting to see if we do get something like that, understanding that there is that sort of possibility for an override there. But yeah, if we get something like this and it does come back up, I would understand that and be like, okay, cool, that makes sense. But more than likely I would now be looking for something a little bit more flat. Look at that as the top, this as the low, then just keep it as a range, and then basically look at it as a range play, and then understand that if we at any point even don't come to that low but we come back up here, could be looking for entries to come back down and kind of just continue. So that's what I will be looking for, more so on the JP225, but I won't be taking a trade directly on it. Perhaps maybe I could, something that I'll have to look into, because the more I kind of evaluate the JP225, the more I kind of want to take trades on it, but we'll have to wait and see, because I think the spreads could be over the moon. Moving straight into the watch list, we can see that there is a significant interesting amount of pairs on here. Obviously I'm not interested in all of these pairs. Some of them are more so on soft watch, some of them are kind of just there for learning and so forth. You probably also noticed that I did kind of change up my charts. Yeah, just something fun. I think I wanted to go naked charts at the moment, and so far it's been going pretty well for myself. I think the reason why I wanted to go this way is I think visually it's a lot more appealing for newer traders as well who are looking at this, just to kind of see structures. When there's a lot of colors, when there's a lot of stuff going on, it's a little bit more difficult. So by keeping it simple and very straightforward like this, it becomes very, very helpful. So I hope this does shed some light on the creativity and also basically the pattern recognition that you'll gain. So as we can see over here, we had the large time frame structure, and I'm not too concerned about this larger outer structure, these ones. I'm more so interested in this expanding inside here, because what we can see is we had the 1, 2, 3 into this area, we corrected, and then we started pushing down. At this point over here where we kind of pushed below back into the pattern is where I was somewhat very interested in a position. Personally, there was only one position that I could see, which was over here, and it was inside and then this one was on the low. Wasn't something I was interested in. There was somewhat of this kind of position, but not really something I was willing to entertain. I think if I was going to put my risk on something, I would definitely wait for something like that, and then if we go to push away a tangle correction, we could potentially look to get involved in that. At the moment, it's not looking so good for that. If we do get something like this, and it does come up like that, and there is some sort of structure that I can look into and take that, then that could be interesting, because then I'll be playing the larger flag with an internal structured approach, and that could be something of interest. But more than likely, this needs time to develop, and I would be interested in that more so than anything else. If we had something like that, that is 110% me. There's no reason to hesitate on that position to go short. The next one I'm looking at is New Zealand US dollar. So New Zealand US dollar is kind of more so in this position. It was more on a market open position. Very nice position though, I have to say. So what we have over here is, and I'll zoom out to the weekly, we had this obviously aggressive push up, but we had the impulse back up. Then we had the weeks of corrective price. We had the 1, 2, 3 completion. Over here we retraced, we created a large flag, but it was in that territory where it could have just created continuation and carried on, and then we rejected more impulsive movement. Over here throughout, we can see that we created the large correction with a 1, 2, 3 within this larger structure of a 1, 2, 3, and it's going in a natural form of continuation. So the one thing that I do like about this is obviously we are going off structure, and we're kind of moving in this corrective channel at the moment, but everything can change once we impulse and break out of it. Right now it's looking quite good in my opinion, because what I can see here is that we pushed away, we created this tight correction, we pushed away, we retested the section, then we moved away. It's a good sign that this can continue to the upside, and I think, you know, positioning would have been quite easy for this one. More so I think in terms of stop protection, you'd be well protected at this point. Even if you covered in the break even around about here, you'd still be well protected. Over here where the retest came in, you could have easily just repositioned yourself wherever you wanted to. Perhaps even if you got into over here, it would be even better, but it's still one of those ones where I think people would see that drop off and they'll be like, I'm not sure if I want to take that. But then you have to look at it this way: if this was the, you know, if this is what was going to happen, then you've got more than enough room to manage from here to here before you come back off. So still very good trade there. And then yeah, essentially be looking at this to sort of complete. Maybe if it does come back up here and we see something larger, then we can evaluate and see if this does come back down. But I don't think it is giving any sort of strong indication of a downwards move. I think this could be the flag that we're looking for to take us to get to our next point over here, and then possibly even start creating new highs. So stay sharp and understand that this is a very strategic area to be placing yourself. GA is the next one. Quite good structure actually. I saw this one and I was more than enough ready on it. I remember that. I think I've got the picture somewhere over here. I was looking at it, and essentially when I saw that 1 hour retrace, I was like, this is phenomenal. So what we had is essentially we had structure leading up to it, and then just after the structure we basically moved. So here's the picture, which hopefully you can see a bit better. This was it. So we had the 1, 2, 3, and then we had the retrace and push down, and the entry was that kind of shadow traded it, but it wasn't one I want to get into, and I'll tell you why in a second. So if we look at the weekly, we can see that we have a high point over here, and we have this expanding leading into it, which works as a continuation or reversal. As we can see here, we are looking at the reversal, but we can see that we're not quite there yet, and we haven't tapped into this high yet. So this could be accumulation for the up move, which makes more sense after all that aggression. What I was looking over here was we had this sort of footprint in the market where price wicked and came all the way back in, came down, and then came back up. Didn't quite get there yet, correctively moved, and it was coming back up to that point. So perhaps maybe it was correctively moving to get to that point, so that we could then get a mini sell-off to create the larger accumulation of this, to then make the bigger move. So I know it's not as easy to see when price is all the same color, but essentially this was your bull candle and that was your bear candle, just engulfing that on the high. So we did technically break above, and then we pushed back in, retraced the whole candle, and then we rejected. Entry point would have literally been on that, which was here, and that would be your entry. And then essentially you would have been running roughly around about 3.2, perhaps maybe you would be holding about 0.6, half. To be honest, I mean, if you were running 3%, you probably would have been fairly aggressive at that point, and probably taking about 2.5 out of the market. It would have been a bigger trade anyway, so you would have been waiting in anticipation for a 4% move. So I think as it moved to 3%, you probably would have just become a little bit more aggressive. 2.5 would have been more than enough, and you would have been out of the market there. So yeah, I mean, it would have always been a short play move anyway. It was a short-term move to this low to go long, but the reason why I didn't take it, even though we had all of these aspects of a good trade, was just because there is a much better move on the way. And I think if you had something like that, which obviously is not ready yet, could be next week, could be this week, more so I think positioning wise, if you had, let's say, only 2% you could risk, would you risk your 2% here on that when you know there's a high just above it and a larger time frame sort of expanding structure? Or would you risk it here once you've cleared all that price, impulsively pushed back in and create flow? And that's kind of the sort of idea behind it. But I think as we know that we will gravitate to this point here, I don't want to be shorting in the market over here. The price to potentially just move a little bit lower and then just kind of make its way back up. So for that reason, that's why I opted out. But more so, I'm looking at price coming here and then potentially looking to go long and then go in line with it, because then that long position has a lot more higher probability, because we've accumulated price. If we move, we might move quite aggressively, and more than likely I'm looking for a bit more structure. But you know, we could move like this and then sort of create this sort of structure, and that's basically what I'll be looking for. And I'll just remove that. So yeah, I'll be looking for that sort of structured approach there. I don't know if we will get that structured approach though, so we'll have to wait and see how we do approach this area. But more so, we'll be waiting for it to push, clear the high, come back in, and then once we're trading back below that ray line, that's when we'll be looking for continuation to the downside. So that's it basically for GA. GBP New Zealand, definitely a mistrade on the table there. Such a nice position. So very much like we just saw with GA, but the better confluence is that we have the higher time frame, sort of 1, 2, 3 here. We've actually completed that. We had the mini override, which is the dotted white line here, and you can see here that we broke it. We came back in, but we didn't quite complete. We came for the M star sort of feel to it, but it was more so a 1, 2, 3 play. And then as we completed that, we pin barred right here, which is very nice. Entry point could have easily been put on top of this, and you'd be in for a phenomenal trade in itself. You could have taken a break even a couple hours later, or if you're still holding it, you'd be in for the game. And yeah, essentially you'd be running just over 1.5%, which wasn't the best entry in there, because if you drill into the hourly, sorry, I think it was the 15-minute, you would then be able to see here when you had this sort of price point over there. As we came in over here, you could have then strategically looked for this, but I think it also comes with a bit of risk because of how we approached it. And yeah, I mean, that's the risk you would have taken. But then as you understood that we kind of rejected from there was this sort of 5-minute area here. So some people did look at this sort of large correction. I wasn't really interested in it, but this bit of price I think is a little bit more interesting in my opinion, because we clearly came 1, 2 bottoms, and then we actually created a 1, 2, 3, and then you could have easily taken a 10 pip entry over here, or call it a little bit more, you know, just to give yourself the extra room, 15 pips, and then you'd be running that, and you'd be out the trade now easily over here for roughly around about 4.2. So, you know, even positioning yourself very strategic up here, you could be out of the market very quickly anyway. On a different day that could drop off and be more aggressive, but that would be an easy 4.2% trade right there, which I think is a really nice trade. If you did go a little bit more of the true risk, which I think is still completely valid, you could have taken it with about 11 pips, and yeah, you would be out with a little bit more, of roughly around about 6-ish%, 6.5%. So yeah, decent sized positions there, and I think in the context of things, this definitely has good room to move lower. It's not really given the best of entries, so I think for now I'll just be patient with that. I would be looking for this to kind of just drop off and maybe create something, but then this is now just looking quite corrective, and have to understand that I wouldn't really be looking for sort of another sort of pattern to form out of this. I think this is pretty beautiful as it is, but I think clearing this and creating something in this area would be more interesting for a position. So that's basically what I'm going to be looking at, but there's so much room for the downside, so it doesn't really matter if you get a position now, next week, week after, as long as we're kind of moving in this run here. There's going to be a lot of interesting moves. The next one I'm going to be looking at is New Zealand yen. I think New Zealand yen is also, just like GBP Aussie, GBP New Zealand, just kind of coming to a very good valuable point off its run. This one hasn't yet completed, but we do have this interesting area where we had a 1, 2, 3. Didn't quite get that strong commitment yet, but we can see here that even if we do look at this, you know, we're kind of just squeezing into this area again, and I think with the final touch, if we don't get the commitment from here, this will probably be the one to sell off. It will be unlikely for this to just keep channeling like this. It's not the most sustainable, but you know, we are getting very close to these areas, and it doesn't seem like price is wanting to sell off yet. So we are accumulating a lot of price, perhaps maybe for a very good sell-off. So patience is definitely one for this pair, but definitely don't let your guard down on this one, because if I go to the 4 hour, we can see closely that we are, even though we had this mini override and we've kind of done it similar to what we saw with GN, we're having a 1, 2, 3, breaks above, pushes up, comes back in, creates a flag, and then we look for the sells. And then, you know, even if this is a trade to here, to back down here, to create something larger, to then go, fair enough, you've still got this run into this low, and then you can basically look at your next move. So I think this is going to be a very, very interesting one. As we can see multiple times, we do get quite a good move away from this area. So now that we are trading above this, people might be getting caught out on the wrong side of the market. We want to see what happens. Stay sharp. We'll see this week. Maybe hopefully by the end of this week, we might be somewhere down here and looking at continuation to the downside, and you guys could even get involved in a position. So the next one is USD CAD. I think USD CAD is definitely one of the more exciting ones as well. This one we've broken the low, so we have to understand that even though we are coming in with a bit of a correction, descending channel, this can still come up, create something like that, and then it works in continuation to the downside. You know, taking flags on the low isn't the best and nowhere near the best quality, but obviously we have to understand it, because very neutral, it can go both ways at that point. I've seen it definitely mess people up at that point, including myself prior. So this can easily come in lower, so I wouldn't just look for any old trade. I would look at literally what I've just forecasted over here, let it do whatever it has to do, and then once it starts building momentum and coming back up, let it create its first continuation flag, and then you want to get involved. Even if the continuation flag is up here, there's so much room for you to come up here, so I wouldn't even worry about it. There'll be plenty and plenty of opportunities, and yeah, honestly, it's going to look sick once it shapes up. Aussie US dollar. Aussie US dollar is one that I'm still waiting for right now. It's hopefully going to shape up very soon. Essentially, yeah, I'm just waiting for price to make its way back up here, and then we look for the sell. It's just a bit of a tricky one, to be honest, because I'll show you why. If I go to the daily, we basically had this, and then we had the aggressive sell-off. It's more than likely now that we might get something a little bit larger, but because of this tight squeeze, I'm just not really the biggest fan of this at the moment. I think I'm more so interested in just looking at that as price and just leaving it at that. You know, I don't want to be messing with the lines. I don't want to be just putting my sort of lines over here, lines over there, coming in, you know, squeezing it in like this. I'm going to keep it simple, and that's the high, that's the two bottoms, that's the two tops. If price goes up, comes back down, it does what it does, it is what it is. If I have to take a reduced risk entry, is it so bad? Really, is it so bad? 30 pips. And then let's look at the actual move. If this flag and it doesn't come on anywhere back near it, you know, you're still looking at potentially a 7% to the low, just for putting a reduced risk. Obviously, that's not the best position you could be taking. We could be definitely looking for a bit more refinement in there, and possibly we could potentially, the only negative confluence is that little bit of wick over there. Could we just push up, tap into that possibly as well? So you're still looking at about 20% position there, but still you're looking at 10%. It's a 3% difference, and the protection is definitely there too. But yeah, I think price will eventually tell us what's really going to happen. It could easily go missed, and I think the reduced risk entry is probably going to be the best entry on the table, but we'll have to wait and see. If we do happen to get something like this, if we do get something like this where it does push up and then it comes down and it goes like that, and then that becomes a larger piece of structure, then we would have to understand what did we did we look too early as well. There's so many variations of things that you have to take into consideration when you have a structure like this, which is short and tight, but you have to understand these are hours of candles. This has been correcting for, let's say, give or take almost 3.5 days. So pretty good piece of price here. I think that's more than enough to see that kind of get that strong push, and more than likely, if this is the move and we take a break, could be moving back into this area. If we look at it from the top of this, yeah, I think more so I would be interested to see it kind of come back to these lows and then start creating something larger over there. Could be well protected. Reduced risk could be reduced risk, we'll have to wait and see. To be fair. Okay, so Aussie Swiss, I was looking for a larger flag up in structure, didn't quite get it. Still looking for that, to be honest. I'm still looking for something to kind of come in, see how that is. Perhaps it lines up with that, and then we get a good move. I'm not too sure yet, but this is the sort of structures I'm going to be looking for and waiting for. I think they're going to be much better when they shape up like this. We just have to let them shape up, that's the only thing, and they can take some time. So probably by Wednesday-ish time, Tuesday evening, it might be ready. Obviously, given this Aussie pair, probably Wednesday morning, early, or call it Tuesday evening, it might shape up and just go. So keep it sharp eye on that. USD ZAR, as we saw with the DXY, I'll go back to it quickly. There could be the potential for the long. USD ZAR is looking quite similar in light. Be getting that 1, 2, 3, and then we go long. So essentially, I'll just zoom out quickly, and I'm essentially looking at this as a 1, 2, 3 into this area, and then I just want to see how price kind of moves. So going to the 4 hour, I now want to see if we can position ourselves down there to go for the long. And in terms of a risk reward, that is looking pretty good, to be honest. Possibly a 22 to most probably will extend. It would probably take a little bit longer than we expect, given it how it moves, but if the DXY does move quite aggressively, then we'll see that. But we do need to still see reversal structures and whatnot, because we are looking for the sell-off. 30% position or more on the table there. Okay. And CAD-Gen. So CAD-Gen was one I was actually just looking at just before this video. So if I go to the weekly, we can see that obviously there's nothing of major interest just yet. We've actually cleared all of this price, and then we had the push back down after we did that. When price cleared all of that, and actually, do you know what? I'll just draw this line on here to be able to see it here. So obviously price cleared all of this, pushed up, and then pushed back down, probably just taking out all that liquidity. And then now you see that we didn't get the commitment. We did get nice continuation though, which was really good. And this area over here, this area over here, maybe a little bit in there, and so forth. And then we had something a bit larger, but we didn't get the full commitment out of this. Fair enough, it is what it is. But now, one of the nice things about this is that we are back and we are very close to this high. This is a very beautiful little scoop that I can see, and the one thing I do like about this is that we're now coming back up to this high in this sort of nature, and easily we could see this either do two things, right? It either comes in here, rejects, comes back up for one more touch, and then sells off, giving it that typical sort of cup and handle sort of vibe where, you know, you have something like this. Maybe if I can't flip the chart actually, but you know, you've got the scoop like that, but then you get it again. That's definitely a possibility, or we might even see it just push a little bit above, come back in. There was obviously this that someone pointed out where there was this little bit of price there. I just think it's a bit of just price, basically, just in that area. I think if we are going to be coming up here, more than likely we're going to be coming back up to the high. I don't think we're going to sell off dramatically from just that one point there and just come all the way back down. I think more than likely, if we were going to sell off, we would have sold off from here. We're coming up with aggression. Is this the little bit of liquidity that we come in, create continuation, and then we see those nice sort of flags that we're looking for to the downside? Because we didn't really see that on this way down. You know, there was nothing of great. Well, it did start off pretty well, but then didn't keep up with it. So yeah, I mean, that was nice, and that was very nice, but who knows? Let's wait and see. I mean, it's looking good. The markets are looking very good. Euro Swiss not anywhere near ready yet. I'm still waiting for some structure to develop, waiting to see. Maybe this is gonna tap into the low, create continuation. That's what I was looking for. So we did tap into the low, but we didn't quite create the continuation I was looking for just yet. So I will be waiting to see if we do create something, and then we go. If we do get something like that, fair play. You know, that would be the long position that I'm waiting for, and the one that I will be looking to entertain. Otherwise, you know, I'm not going to be bothered. I am going to be looking for somewhat of a structured approach on this. I would like to see how that shapes up. At the moment, I think it's not near ready, so there's no point over forecasting on this. I was looking for it to potentially push down and create a flag to maybe continue lower if it was to go short, but looking at it, I think it just needs a bit of time, honestly. It's not one that I think we're wasting a lot of attention. I think there's much better things on there, so I think really and truly I would filter that out of my watch list. Even though we had that rejection there, which looks great, right? You know, on the 4 hour we had a pin bar. The daily, it's actually looking pretty decent as well, where we're rejected from here. It could be easily gravitating back up to that high. You know, I think that sort of continuation that I'm looking for is definitely the one that I think could possibly be the trade that really shapes this up. So yeah, essentially I'll wait for that. But yeah, that could easily be filtered out. I think I'll just kind of leave that one down here, and yeah, I'll come back to it. New Zealand CAD, not really ready for me either. I think, you know, it's just kind of, we had this sort of largest pattern, then we pushed up, and then it's just, yeah, it's indecisive, it's very choppy. It's I was looking for a clear just kind of push down, but given how we kind of just dropped off, pushed back up, I think the market's just in a massive level of indecision at the moment. This is just one big corrective piece of price, ready to just sell off down here, get into this area, and then kind of carry on with what I'm looking for. So essentially what I am looking for is this. For this bit of corrective price over here to just finish whatever it was doing to eventually come back down into this area to then tap into that zone there to then potentially create this larger flag to come to the downside. And yeah, just it's a matter of patience really. And yeah, the next one we're looking at is Swiss yen. So Swiss yen, I think obviously is definitely close to where it needs to be, just not yet fully ready. We are essentially just looking at price to make its way, push up and push back down, create flag, and let's go. That's pretty much it. We can sell off though at any point, hence the reason why I have got it on soft watch. We just look for that solid push, flag, and we're gone. Obviously, I would like to see it clear all of that corrective price before we go. It doesn't have to be that big. Obviously, it was just there for demonstration. More so, I'm looking for a tight, nice flag pushed below this area here, and that'll be good to go. If we do get that corrective approach up to here, and then we get a strong impulse and a flag down here, for sure, you know, why would you hesitate on that at all? It would be still very high possibility, even if we're above that high. Understand the risk that you're still in. This can develop and become a bit larger, but more than likely, we're coming off higher time frame structure with a RO3, you know, combined with so many different confluences, and then if the yen pairs all gear up together, you've positioned yourself strategically very, very well. Euro GBP, I am looking for this, but the only negative confluence to it, and hence the reason why I've got it all the way down here, is because we are on the low, and taking trades on the low is definitely a no, because we know the risk that it comes with. But given the size of this flag over here and the structure that we are forming, if we do create the low, we come back up here, we test that, we push down, we create a flag, this could then form as a good possibility that we are going to come back down, test that low before we potentially come lower. So understanding that in the grand scheme of things of the higher time frame structure as well, it's possible, it's very possible, but this is a good area we could possibly reverse and come all the way back up here as well. So very neutral area to be in, being honest with you, EG, but definitely one that deserves a little bit of attention just to see what forms. GBP yen, I think it's looking more and more bullish as the weeks go on now. We had the extension, we had the hook point, we just couldn't get the commitment. You know, we've pushed up now, and more than likely we're tapping into these sections over here. What I'll be looking for is a larger flag, to be honest. It does look like we have that corrective squeeze there. Do we come back down to this point over here, push down, push back up, and then sell off? If we do get a sort of corrective push back down, 1, 2, 3, then we could take a message from the market, but that wouldn't be your typical angle, to be honest, where you see something like that. So yeah, you'd have to read between the lines and fully understand what you're looking at before you take it. But I would be looking for like an impulsive action down, push back up, push back down, and then I'll be gone for the long. But like I said, I'm looking to go long, so more than likely I'll probably miss that trade because GJ could get messy, or perhaps not even give us price. UJ is definitely looking like a long as well at this point. We've pushed up. If this was the hook point and we were going to sell off, we would have really done so by now, in my opinion. We would have had that aggressive push away. We're kind of sitting above here, creating this continuation. The DXY is looking like it's going bullish as well. There's just so many things for the US dollar at the moment. However, what I will not cross off the board is the sell. And this can turn around, just like I said with Swiss yen. If we do just sell off massively, create a little bit of a continuation over there, and boom, you know, next thing you know, we're all the way down here. Who have you got to blame? Well, you're not just going to be married to the bias of a long. You know, we have to understand we are just above the high. We still have room to push lower. So staying quite neutral as well, but understanding that we are above the high, creating continuation. We could form a running channel, we could form many things, but more so we can sell off. I'm not looking to take any shorts in this area here until we've cleared that ray line low, and then I'll be looking for short positions. So still looking at shorts really and truly deep down, but understanding that we could be going long, and if we do create a 1, 2, 3, I won't hesitate. Essentially, if we come back down, come back up, and then come back down again, yeah, why would I hesitate on the long position then, right? Euro USD, just like the XY, essentially still looking at this. The very nice thing about this is though, we have this, and I keep taking this really long for some reason. So we essentially have this 1, 2, 3 into this section over here. I'm looking for a larger middle section flag over here to take us, build enough momentum, push into that zone, and then look for the short. So we'll see what happens, but this is looking more so like it could just run its course, could even push further. So that's why positioning yourself for the long could be quite good, because if this does continue and then gets more momentum and then keeps going, fair play to it. If we do come back down and start correcting, then I'll be looking at this section over here for the long position to see if I can get position there, and then you'd be looking at something more so. I wouldn't really care, but you know, you'd be in for a monster of a trade in that sense anyway. But yeah, essentially flag over here to get to that high. It could develop to be something more internal, so we have to really read between the lines, because this can become so much more than what we want. And yeah, just to understand your variations of patterns when you are in these areas. GBP USD, simple yet very corrective. So looking at this here on the daily, what do we see? Well, we have this little bit over here where we broke above it in this sort of ascending nature and expanding nature. And what I do see is, as we approach expanding, we didn't get that clear sort of push away at this moment in time. What we actually did get though was corrective price. And what do we know about corrective price? Well, it's not really sustainable. So we're seeing this now correcting like this. It's more than likely we push back up, maybe even M start before we short, or if we do get the sell, I would want to see a strong impulse, but right now I'm not really seeing that sort of price action. This is just more corrective. I have price. If it does give me a strong impulse down, then creates a flag, okay, I can take a message from the market, but more than likely I'm not going to touch that. Euro New Zealand, I am looking for a structured approach on this one. I'll be very honest with you. It's still premature days, but we have this ascending into this section over here. We have this level over here that I'm more interested in than anything else, and I would like to see that if we do get a structured approach. So this will take some more than enough time for us to get there, but in the meanwhile I'm going to keep it on the sidelines. I'm not going to take any trades on it. As we said before, it's not worth it, to be honest. You know, it's just nowhere near ready, you know, but it's good to understand what's happening with these structures so that when they do shape up, you can kind of take advantage of them. But yeah, it's nowhere near ready. And I think it's just kind of in this sort of danger zone, but keeping it there, understanding that we have that high. If we do just aggressively start pushing to it and then we reject from there, take a message from the market and go short. So guys, that basically covers these pairs that I was looking at. If there was anything else that you guys were looking at, definitely drop a comment below and I'd be more than happy to do a breakdown on it. I know a lot of people like the Germany 40, which I do love as well. Personally, it's in a good area. I just don't know how ready it is yet, I'll be honest with you. Until we've cleared this low, I wouldn't look for shorts, and then if I was looking at that, I would then see it price come up here, potentially look for a short there. UK 100, nothing really there. Let's see. Commodities, gold is just so corrective at the moment, guys. I don't know about you guys, but I know some people love trading gold. I think if you were trading gold, right now with the DXY, how the way it's going, I wouldn't be surprised if people were looking to short this, because DXY is going long. Gold could come short for a while before we go long. We still haven't filled in that high. So close, we got so close to the high multiple times. We just got to wait and see. I mean, I've got some weird price quote on here. Actually, I changed gold recently because I had some other quote on it. So this one's showing me that we filled it, weirdly enough. Let's quickly just clear that off. And I was using capital.com. So gold. Interesting. Sparks. Wow. Interesting. Anyway, I'll have to sort that out another time. And yeah, I mean, do you know what? The markets are looking good, man. There's so much opportunity in the market. I mean, look at that structure on silver. Very nice, right? Palladium. Broken lows. Palladium's in a very good value area right now, actually. Don't know about that, but look at what we've approached correctively as well in this massive form of corrective price over here. That's interesting. Platinum, nothing really there that jumps out. Crude oil, surprised, honestly, made it all the way up here. We crashed to zero, all in a space of 2022, and now, honestly, look at that. COVID came all the way down here. Then we've been through the oil crisis of a lifetime. Honestly, crazy. And then natural gas. Wow, natural gas. And yet gas prices are so expensive. Anyway guys, yeah, that basically sums up this week's sort of watch list wildcards. Maybe not looking so exciting, but honestly guys, these are the ones you really want to be waiting for because they shape up and they become so good. Honestly, like the ones that are inside, once the trend is running, boy, you can capitalize, you can make good money. This is where you want to be sharp and you want to be patient, and you don't want to just be taking any old low quality trade. You want to be waiting for these proper setups where you've got structure and you can just capitalize so well on these. So yeah, have a good week guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.